With regard to the to the comparison with the Bali declaration, I would only say Bali was Bali and New Delhi is New Delhi. I mean, Bali was a year ago. The context, the situation was different. Many things have happened since then.
This is my video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Monday afternoon, September the 11th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Annalena 360's surprise trip to Kiev. A surprise for me and you, but for Russia, not so much a surprise because they gave Annalena permission to travel to Kiev and meet with Zelensky. But something big is going on because in the last week, you've had Blinken in Kiev, along with Cookies Newland, where he spent 2 days in Kiev. You had Boris Johnson in Kiev, and now you have Annalena 360 in Kiev meeting with Zelensky. So something big is happening. What is going on here? What do you think is going on? Why do you think Blinken, Boris, and Annalena have visited Kiev to meet with Zelensky in the last week? What's your take, Nicosia Cat? You don't know, do you? You don't know? Okay. Let me tell you what I think is going on. You want to hear what I think is happening? Let me tell you what I think is happening. All right. Here's my take on things. Blinken went to Kiev, as me and Alexander reported in a video that we made for the Duran 3-4 days ago. Blinken went to Kiev to break the bad news to Zelensky, which is that the counteroffensive has failed, a catastrophic failure. And the best way forward now is to try and convince, trick, force Russia into accepting a Korea-style freeze to the conflict, an armistice to the conflict. That was what Blinken told Zelensky when he was in Ukraine. That's why he went to Kiev, and that's why he stayed there for 2 days. Boris Johnson followed up on Blinken's trip to tell Zelensky that the UK is on board with this conflict freeze plan. And Annalena is in Kiev right now to tell Zelensky that Germany and the European Union is also on board with the plan to try and get Russia to agree to a conflict freeze. That's what's going on here. And Annalena is also going to tell Zelensky, I believe, that Annalena is going to tell Zelensky, look, Volodymyr, I understand that that you having to tell the people of Ukraine, and especially the crazy Banderites, that the counteroffensive has been a complete failure, and we are now going to try and negotiate with Russia and pressure Russia into agreeing to a conflict freeze, which means that the territory that Russia controls will remain with Russia for the near future. We understand that that's going to put you in a very difficult and life-threatening position. So as the foreign minister of Germany, as the representative for the European Union, you can tell the Banderites in the west of Ukraine, and you can tell the people of Ukraine that the European Union is going to work very hard to try and get you into the EU in the next 2 years. That's kind of the cover that we'll give you as you break the news of the failure of the counteroffensive and the plan to freeze the conflict to your people and to the crazy Banderite forces in the west of Ukraine. I think that's another message that Annalena is going to deliver to Zelensky. Not that Ukraine will ever get into the European Union, but a promise of getting into the EU in the next 2 years could be enough to keep Zelensky in his position as president, or at a very minimum to keep Zelensky out of harm's way from the Banderites in the west of Ukraine. Because if he didn't have anything to offer the people of Ukraine and anything to offer the Banderites, and he just came out and said the counteroffensive is a failure, and the collective West has said that they want us to negotiate with Russia and to work towards some sort of a freeze in the conflict, well then Zelensky would have been in big, big trouble. So at least now he'll have, ow, why are you biting me? At least now he'll have some sort of a carrot to give to the forces in the west of Ukraine that are not going to be happy with the way things are going. So that is what I believe is happening here. Annalena in Kiev to tell Zelensky that the EU is fully on board with the State Department's Korea armistice plan. So, ow, 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 ow. So Blinken, he gave an interview to ABC News, and Blinken told ABC News that Putin has already lost in attempting to erase Ukraine. Blinken said it takes two to tango, and thus far we see no indication that Vladimir Putin has any interest in meaningful diplomacy. If he does, I think the Ukrainians will be the first to engage, and we'll be right behind them. Everyone wants the war to end, but it has to stand on just terms and on durable terms that reflect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And Blinken then told ABC News, keep in mind, Putin has already lost in what he was trying to achieve. He was trying to erase Ukraine from the map and its independence, subsume it into Russia. That has already been a failure. So in this statement from Blinken to ABC News, he is saying two things. The first thing he is saying is that the U.S. would be open to negotiating with Russia for a freeze to the conflict. Of course, he masks it in terms like, Putin doesn't want to negotiate, so it's their fault, but we're up for negotiations, but Putin doesn't look like he wants to negotiate. But if Russia would signal that they're ready to negotiate, then I believe Ukraine would definitely be up for negotiating, and we would support Ukraine in negotiations. So he's kind of covering it up a bit, the message and what he's trying to say. But make no mistake about it, Blinken in this statement to ABC News, he is saying that the United States is ready to negotiate a freeze to the conflict. That is what he is signaling here. And the other thing that he is saying is more for the citizens of the United States and for the supporters of Project Ukraine, which is that don't look at a freeze in the conflict. Don't look at it as a loss. Just because we're ready to negotiate with Russia, don't look at it as if Project Ukraine has failed, because at the end of the day, we won and Putin failed, because Putin's ultimate goal was to subsume Ukraine into the Russian Federation, and he failed at this goal. So that's the other message that Blinken is trying to put out there, which is a lie, because never once did Russia ever say that one of their goals was to take over Ukraine and to subsume Ukraine into the Russian Federation. They never, ever said that. Lavrov never said that. Shoigu never said that. Peskov never said that. Putin never said that. The four goals of the special military operation were detailed in the beginning of the special military operation, and they have not changed up until today. Those four goals are demilitarization, denazification, protecting the Russian speakers of Donbass, and preventing Ukraine from entering NATO. Those were the four goals that Putin outlined in the beginning of the special military operation, and those goals those goals have officially not changed. He's making up Russia's objectives, and then he's coming out and saying that Russia hasn't met those objectives. Russia did not conquer Ukraine, and Russia's goal was to take over Ukraine and to make Ukraine part of the Russian Federation, and they didn't achieve those goals. So the Biden White House actually came out all right with Project Ukraine. And he needs to come out with a statement like this because we have an election in 2024. And the last thing that Blinken and the Democrats and the Biden White House wants is for the American people to say that Project Ukraine and the hundreds and hundreds of billions that were given to the Zelensky regime was for nothing. It was for a freeze to the conflict. That's the last thing that they want the voter to think. And so the narrative now is that Russia lost. It didn't accomplish its goal of conquering Ukraine. And the Biden White House, using its diplomacy, achieved a freeze to the conflict and prevented Russia from achieving its goals. That's pretty much what the narrative is going to be. And the collective West media, they're going to repeat this narrative ad nauseum. They're going to say it over and over again. And they're going to say that Putin wanted to take over Ukraine, and Russia wanted to expand the Russian Empire, and Russia wanted to expand the Soviet Empire, and Russia wanted to expand the Tsarist Empire, and the main goal was to take over Ukraine, and the main goal was to make Ukraine part of the Russian Federation. And they're going to repeat this over and over and over again. And it's going to probably work. It's going to probably work. And most people are going to probably say, the Biden White House, they froze this conflict and they prevented Russia from conquering all of Ukraine. So this has been a loss for Putin. That's what they're going to do. And I think a lot of people are going to probably buy into this narrative. Of course, you have one big problem to this entire story. And this is a big one. You have to get Russia on board, right? You have to get Russia to agree to freeze the conflict. And that's going to be a problem. Hey, what are you doing? Looking through the trash. If I had food, I'd give you, but I don't have any. I don't carry cat food around with me. I wish I had some food. Anyway, yeah, so that's the problem. That is the big problem. How do you get Russia to agree to freezing this conflict? Well, what the Blinken White House is going to do, and what the collective West is going to try to do, is they're going to try to threaten Russia, to panic Russia into agreeing to a freeze, to try and trick and panic and threaten Russia into believing that freezing the conflict along the current lines is the best possible outcome for all sides. And they're going to do this by giving ATACMS to Ukraine, by giving Taurus missiles to Ukraine, and trying to strike Russian territory with those ATACMS, with those Taurus missiles, by continuing to send drones into Moscow and towards Crimea. And they're going to use all of these methods and all these methods and tactics to try and push the Russians towards agreeing to freezing the conflict. So that's what's going to be happening in the next 3 to 6 months, if I had to take a guess at how this thing is going to unfold. And this is going to be a slow process. Freezing the conflict is not going to be a 1 month thing. It's not going to be a 3 month thing. I think it'll be like a 3 to 6 or 9 month process where the collective West is going to do everything in its power to try and create some leverage over Russia so that they can get Russia to agree to a conflict freeze. And right now what you're seeing the collective West getting the Zelensky regime on board with the conflict freeze. That's why you have Blinken and Boris and Baerbock visiting Kiev, and I imagine you're going to have a lot more collective West leaders going to Kiev over the next week, 3 weeks going forward. You're going to have a lot more collective West leaders traveling to Kiev as they get everything ready from Ukraine's side to move towards a Korea style of armistice. So that is what is going on with Annalina's trip to Kiev and Blinken's statements to ABC News. Mark Milley, he also gave an interview to the BBC the other day, and he said that there is still a reasonable amount of time, about 30 to 45 days worth of fighting weather left. He said that he's a glass half full type of guy. That's his messaging, glass half full. And he said that the counteroffensive had achieved very steady progress since it began in early June. The Ukrainians aren't done, according to Milley. This battle is not done, and they haven't finished the fighting part of what they are trying to accomplish. It's too early to say how this is going to end. So that is what Milley told the BBC, and it's Milley's way of telling the BBC that the counteroffensive has failed. That's basically what Milley is trying to get at with this statement. You know, I'm a glass half full kind of general, and you know, we got 30 days, 35 days. Let's see what happens. Maybe Ukraine will surprise us. Maybe something's going to change. Maybe Russia's going to really mess up in a big way, which will allow Ukraine to make it to Tokmak. Who knows? Let's just give it another month and see what happens. I'm a glass half full type of general, but really what Milley is saying is that this conflict is over. At least the counteroffensive part of this conflict is over. That's basically what Milley is saying. So that's the message from the top general, Mr. Milley. Where should we go now? What do you think? Have any ideas where we should walk to? No idea. Let me get my bag. Wait right there. So let's see here. Do I have any more news to get to? Zelensky gave an interview to The Economist as well the other day. He also gave an interview to CNN. And Zelensky basically said that it's going to be a long war. That's what he told The Economist. That's what he told CNN as well. This is going to be a long war, and it's going to be a long fight. Once again, Zelensky is starting to. I think he's now starting to accept the message that Blinken and Boris and today Annalina, what they're giving him. He's starting to finally incorporate it into his script. And he's getting it down now. He's getting the lines down, and he's delivering them pretty effectively now. He gave an interview to Fareed Zakaria, and he was pretty convincing. He was pretty convincing as he was delivering his lines. So yeah, it's going to be a long, long war. That's what Zelensky is now telling the people of Ukraine. So, and that's what he told The Economist as well. He also told The Economist that it's going to be a long war. But at the end of the day, Ukraine is going to be victorious. The Russian economy, he said, is going to crumble. Ukraine's economy is going to flourish because he's going to be promised EU membership. You see, he's going to be promised EU membership. So Ukraine's economy is going to be okay. He said that in the long run, Russia's economy is going to falter, but it's going to be a long struggle, a long grind. That's what he told The Economist. That's what he told Fareed Zakaria. And USA Today, they, come here. USA Today, they interviewed an Air Force, what is this guy? An Air Force veteran, State Department advisory panel member, and Russia expert. And now you're going to hear some actual reporting from a Collective West media outlet, some truth from a Collective West media outlet. So they interviewed this Air Force veteran and State Department advisor, and this is what he said about the conflict in Ukraine. He said, and I quote, "There is no effective counter strategy available for the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are in deep trouble." Myers told USA Today the Ukrainians use pinpricks and news about taking back land to demonstrate progress to the West, but are less transparent about the cost in Ukrainian lives. They don't talk about the counterstrikes by the Russians, who don't care about gaining or holding ground in the kill zone and are experts at laying traps. Ukraine and the West badly need an exit strategy, Myers said. Europe is in more economic trouble than we are. Germany's in deep recession. The Europeans are not going to shoulder more economic burden. They need an off-ramp. So, whenever you get this type of truth from a Collective West media outlet, you know that something is up. We are seeing a narrative shift, some trickle truth, drip by drip by drip. The Collective West media is going to start to report some of the reality as to what is happening with Project Ukraine and the 3-month super duper counteroffensive. So that was from the USA Today. Let's do a couple of clown worlds. Before I get to my clown world, how about a big shout out to the GOAT of tennis, Mr. Novak Djokovic, who won the US Open, his 24th Grand Slam title. 24. He is without a doubt the greatest tennis player to ever live, and probably definitely one of the greatest professional athletes to ever live. I think he's right up there now with the greats, Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Novak Djokovic. An incredible accomplishment from Djokovic. Serbia versus Russia in the finals of the US Open. Think about that one. Serbia v. Russia in the finals of the US Open. Djokovic, Medvedev. What more can you say? What more can you say? Good on you, Djokovic. The greatest tennis player of all time. All right, let's do a couple of clown worlds. The first clown world was actually going to be my intro video, but I decided not to have back-to-back Biden intro videos because my intro video from yesterday was a Biden gaffe, and I didn't want to make my intro video for this video another Biden gaffe, though it could easily have been the intro video. It's the video of Biden giving a press conference in Vietnam, in Hanoi, and he got a question from a reporter, and he started about China and Ukraine, and he started to mumble about some stuff about Xi Jinping and China, and then Biden said, "It's time for me to go to bed, or I'm just doing what I'm being told to do. I'm just taking orders here," he said, and it's time for me to go to bed. And that's when Karine Jean-Pierre actually put a stop to the entire press conference. She's like, enough. She's like, enough of this. Time to end this thing before Biden starts saying some really crazy things. That's pretty much what happened. It was bizarre. We're talking some bizarre stuff. But with each passing day, Biden's just getting worse and worse. I'm trying to get the quote here. Yeah, he said he's going to bed. He said he's just doing what he's being told to do. He's just taking orders. really, really weird stuff with Biden. Every day is a clown world, it seems. Every day is a clown world.
The light and let's see. I'm just following my orders here. Have a game plan. He may have a game plan. He just hasn't shared it with me. But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
So yeah, Joe Biden's staff cuts off a rambling Joe Biden mid-sentence and abruptly ends his news conference. I've never seen this occur with any other president. Yeah, you can say that again. Biden looked visibly confused and guided by his staff. Incredible. Incredible. All right. And from Biden, we move to the European Union for the final clown world. And in this clown world, we have the European Union. They have come out with a statement, a clarification and a statement that Russians traveling to the EU will not only have their cars seized, which is now becoming a common occurrence when Russians are trying to travel to the EU. I imagine from St. Petersburg to Finland or to Estonia. I imagine when Russians are taking their cars to travel into Europe, a lot of them are having their cars seized, and we're seeing that in Germany as well. They're just taking the Russian tourists' cars. And a lot of the Russians that are traveling to the European Union are just that. They're tourists, and their cars are only going to be there for a certain amount of time, for a temporary amount of time, a week or two, as they're vacationing in Europe. And the question was brought up to the European Commission. You know, you're seizing the Russian cars. Is that because they're sanctioned? What's going on here? Why are you seizing these cars? And the European Union, they clarified things. And they said that any item that is on the sanctions list, if it's brought from Russia to the European Union, will be seized. That includes not only cars, it includes mobile phones, it includes, I think they said it includes toilet paper and clothing and electronics and anything that, washing machines, maybe, washing machines, anything that is on the sanctions list. If it's brought in from Russia to the European Union, even by travelers, by tourists for a temporary amount of time, then the European Union can seize those items. That is freaking wild. That is wild and scary. That is scary and evil and sinister, because everything they're doing to Russian tourists, these types of schemes that they've put out there towards Russian tourists, seizing cars and mobile phones and stuff like that. These are just all things that they're going to direct towards European Union citizens one day. No doubt about that. But the European Commission, they have come out with a bit of clarification to this story, and they said that the EU may not confiscate personal belongings of tourists from the Russian Federation entering the EU, for example, clothes. So you'll have your car seized, your mobile phone will be seized, your computer will be seized, any other electronics you're bringing in will be seized. But at least you can keep the clothes on your back. So yeah, they're making it so that no Russians will travel to the European Union. That's basically what they're doing. They're making it so that not one single Russian citizen is going to risk traveling to the EU out of fear of having their personal belongings taken away from them. They're creating the European, and this is the European Union doing this. This is not Russia doing this. This is the European Union doing this to Russian tourists. This is the European Union putting in place a real iron wall, a real iron curtain. They're putting it in place. Maybe it's not physical, but it's real. It's very real. So yeah, that's human rights, democracy, rule of law, private property, All those things that they lecture us about, European Union. That's the EU in action right there. The EU states, you know, the EU states should have never allowed Ursula to close the airspace. That was the big mistake right there. When Ursula, at the beginning of the SMO, when she came out with the announcement and said that the EU is going to tell the European Union states to close their airspace to Russian planes, all the countries of the European Union, all of them should have said no. This is not European sovereign airspace. This is Cypriot airspace. This is Greek airspace. This is French airspace. We're not going to allow you to close our airspace to Russia or to anyone. You don't get to say who can fly into France. They should have put their foot down then. But nope, they let it happen. And now look at where the EU is taking this. All right, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter. And we are on Twitter. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code Good Day. That's my Duran backpack right there. Take care, everybody.